BMW's more boldly styled 4th generation X3 is a premium upper mid-sized SUV that's a smarter and more sophisticated choice than the car it replaces, stacking up impressively against prestigiously badged alternatives from Audi and Mercedes in this sector. This G45 era model now has a slightly sharper edge in looks, technology and drive dynamics, but there's a price to pay for that.
BMW's 4th generation X3 gets an edgier vibe for customers looking at an upper mid-sized premium badged SUV. Here, we'll take a closer look. After years of evolution, this 4th generation BMW X3 gets a dose of revolution on the more boldly styled surface anyway. Underneath, things aren't so different. This G45 era model continues with the CLAR architecture of its predecessor and a familiar looking range of combustion engines, which separates this design from the now quite different Neue Klasse iX3 electric model. The X3 is a hugely important car for BMW to get right. It's currently the brand's biggest seller, and the previous 3 generations have amassed over 3.5 million global sales between them. The first 2 designs, the E83 of 2003 and the F25 of 2010, occupied market territory for more compact family SUVs, now covered by the X1. The 3rd generation G01 model of 2017 shifted up market, a car that, like its predecessor and this Mark IV G45 era model, is mainly assembled in the US at Spartanburg, South Carolina. Only the Mark I X3 was European built in Graz, Austria. In this 4th generation range, only the PHEV version hails from a different factory, and that's Rosslyn in South Africa. But are the changes here enough to sustain this BMW against tough competition? The ever excellent Mercedes GLC and an all-new version of its arch rival, the Audi Q5, with other wannabe premium rivals too, like the Lexus NX and the Volvo XC60, also after a slice of the segment. Well, to find out, you will, as usual, need the industry's most comprehensive review, the Car and Driving Road Test. The X3 has always had a reputation as a slightly sportier drive than its Audi Q5 and Mercedes GLC arch rivals in the premium mid-sized SUV segment. Traditionally, though, owners have paid a little for that prowess with, well, slightly firmer and less cosseting ride quality. So, not surprisingly, damping was a developmental priority for BMW with this G45 era model. There was only so much the Munich engineers could do in this regard, though. The CLAR platform that this 4th generation model sits on is, after all, pretty much the same as that of its predecessor. But apparently the body's now more rigid, there's a lighter, stiffer structure and a wider rear axle, and the whole car's also a little lighter, although it still tips the scales at around about 2 tons. As for the suspension, well, that's been completely redesigned with a revised strut front axle and a complex 5-link setup at the rear. Adaptive damping continues as an option. We do have it here, but the brand has stopped short of fitting air suspension and 4-wheel steering. These are features which are just starting to filter down into cars of this class. Compared to the previous model, it's hard to discern much improvement in ride quality as a result of all this effort. Poor surfaces are still quite keenly felt, especially if your chosen X3 happens to ride on large 20-inch rims like the ones we have here. But it's fine at a cruise, and on the twistier stuff, this BMW's position as one of the best handling mid-sized SUVs has been maintained. It's now helped by more accurate steering. The old dual pinion rack has been swapped up for a new belt-driven setup. If you're looking for a really engaging driving machine in this class, though, we would suggest that you get yourself a combustion-engined Porsche Macan, while Zuffenhausen is still prepared to sell you one, that is. This 4th generation X3 is combustion-based, or at least it is in the form that we examine here. There will be a new all-electric iX3, but that will be a very different piece of engineering from what we have here, based on the brand's Neue Klasse generation of models, which seem to have used up nearly all of Munich's resources, because the engine lineup here isn't very much different from what it was with the previous generation G01 era model. All conventional variants feature 40 48-volt mild hybrid tech and 8-speed Steptronic auto transmission with steering wheel paddle shifters. The two main engineering changes are predictable ones: more EV range for the plug-in hybrid xDrive 30e, which was embarrassingly short in that department before, and greater output for the powerful 6-cylinder M-Lite petrol model, now badged X3 M50. More surprising perhaps is that diesel drive, dumped for the 3 Series model this car is based on, retains its place here. The 20D xDrive variant featuring the brand's familiar 197 horsepower unit, 2 litres in size, like all 4-cylinder X3s are. You're more likely though to be pointed towards one of the 2-litre petrol models, either the base 20 xDrive variant we're trying here, which has a 208 horsepower petrol unit, good for 62 miles per hour from rest in 7.8 seconds en route to 134 mph, or the considerably pricier 30e xDrive PHEV we mentioned earlier. That pairs the same engine with a now much larger 22.3 kilowatt hour battery pack that powers an electric motor, boosting total output to 299 horsepower. EV range jumps to a much more usable 56 miles, and 62 is dispatched in just 6.2 seconds. That only leaves the aforementioned petrol M50 xDrive, now the flagship model, until the M3 based X3 competition variant arrives. The M50's twin turbo B58 unit should be fast enough for most though, tuned to 398 horsepower, spiriting the car to 62 in 4.6 seconds en route to 155 mph. As the model names suggest, all variants are all-wheel driven, although as usual in this class they lack the ground clearance that's necessary to use the traction on anything gnarlier than a muddy car park. But there is drive off support, that's for slippery surfaces, and hill descent control too for steep winter driveways. There are 3 drive modes here. There's personal, sport and efficient, and the maximum permitted trailer load is 2,500 kilos depending on the model variant. Well, this is certainly a bolder looking kind of X3, fully conversant with BMW's latest, rather divisive design language. It certainly makes the previous version look rather conservative. And it's bigger too, a full 34 millimeters longer at 4,755 mils and 29 millimeters wider at 1,920 mils. Plus, unhelpfully, you might think for an SUV, now sits 25 mils lower to emphasize the lower roof and sportier profile. Bold side skirts and a roofline extending deep into the rear end are the distinguishing features of this G45 era model's sportier silhouette. These more prominently flared wheel arches are supposed to create the impression of considerable width at the rear, and they house alloy rim sizes between 18 and 21 inches. We've got the 20 inches here. At the front, the more aggressive vibe is very much borrowed from the brand's exclusive XM Super SUV. Well, these prominent twin kidney grille panels are anyway, which, as on that car, can wear this test car's iconic glow illuminated frames at extra cost. A prominent raised central bonnet panel bears the BMW roundel, and the daytime driving lights, the side lights and the turn signal indicators in the sleeker LED headlights are now all produced by L-shaped overlapping light sources. It's all changed at the rear too, where there's a more sculpted tailgate bearing LED lights, which take the form of a horizontal bar with integral turn signal indicators. The flush-mounted rear window is bordered by a long, wide roof spoiler and adjoining side air deflectors, and the number plate's been relocated to the bumper. On this G45 era X3, the exhaust pipes are always hidden, unless you happen to have stretched to the M50 version, of course. Will it be just as different inside? Well, let's take a look. As you'd expect in this day and age, if you don't want to use this stylized fob to unlock the car, you can do it instead via the BMW Digital Key Plus feature you can set up on the My BMW app. Well, this interior is an equally big step forward from the previous generation model, but you won't be surprised by it if you've tried any of the brand's other more recent models. With this G45 generation, the X3 finally adopts the curved display twin screen arrangement that other BMWs have had for ages. What you won't have previously seen unless you've tried one of the brand's larger recent models is this so-called interaction bar, a multicolored semi-translucent ambient lighting strip which stretches across part of the fascia and even features on the door cards. It's active in the sense that it offers a haptic operation and it automatically changes colour to denote things like drive modes, climate settings, safety features and incoming phone calls too. It also arches around this Art Deco patterned storage cubby at the base of the centre stack, which BMW's tried to make a feature of rather than covering it up with a lid as it probably should have. We can't help wondering though whether all this razzle-dazzle is primarily there to distract attention away from a slight drop in perceived cabin quality this time around. Some might like the vast, newly fabric-covered surfaces of the slab-sided fascia. Others, though, might take the view instead that a stylistic device that suits a £30,000 Mini is somewhat out of place on a BMW luxury car costing twice as much. And if you are of that opinion, you certainly won't appreciate the cheap plastic surfaces that feature on the door cards and below the touchscreen, areas that you'll be interacting with quite often. Or the fact that something as basic as driver's seat lumbar support costs extra. On the plus side, unlike its rivals, BMW has retained a rotary cursor controller for the center console, although it doesn't work as well as the iDrive style capstans did on the previous X3, and it sits in a glossy panel surrounded by haptic switches which are really difficult to operate without taking your eyes off the road. It's this controller that you'll primarily use to operate the infotainment features of the 14.9-inch control display just above, although you can, of course, also operate this monitor by touch or via a very intuitive voice control system. As usual with BMW central monitors, this operating system 9 setup's home screen displays either with customizable widget sections. Here we've got navigation, media and destination input, or if you select the apps button from the row of shortcut controls along the display's bottom frame, you'll get the usual rows of little icons. These include useful features like Wi-Fi, weather, the brand's connected drive store, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, Amazon Alexa, and if you've specified them, extra tech features like an interior camera and BMW's drive recorder. Everything else you'll need is to be found on this 12.3-inch driver's instrument display, something else you'll be well familiar with if you've tried a modern BMW launched in this decade. As usual, it displays in a choice of 3 screen formats, 2 of these with angular outer speed and rev counter gauges, flanking either a modestly sized or expanded central space that can be customized to show selectable info, journey data, a drive assist graphic, a route preview with a compass, nav mapping, a G-meter or your chosen media selection. These features can show even more clearly with the 3rd screen format. This has an unusual diagonal slash segregating the digital speedo to the left side of the display. What else? Well, this patterned lower bin, BMW calls this a jewellery box, incorporates wireless phone charging, which is very welcome, and the side vents are now operated by a fiddly X3 branded sliding touch controller, which really isn't. Talking of climate functions, we were also disappointed to find that the previous X3's intuitive physical air conditioning controls have now been replaced by awkward touch-sensitive icons on the central screen. As ever in an X3, you don't sit particularly high up. That's supposed to make the car feel sporty, but the rather overlarge steering wheel here rather dilutes that vibe, and in this M Sport form is, as usual, somewhat over thick. The high bonnet line, that can sometimes make manoeuvring a little bit tricky, but your all-round view is pretty good, and loads of parking features are built in here to help you further. You get twin USB-C ports in the lower centre stack bin and a 12-volt socket in the deep lidded cubby between the seats here. Plus there's also decent sizing for the glove box and for the door bins. Let's take a look in the back. will that extra body length pay dividends here? There's no third row seating option, of course. Only Land Rover's Discovery Sport offers that in this segment. Although for X3 money, it's really worth pointing out that you could get a proper 7-seater from the next class up if you don't mind having it with a mainstream badge. But X3 folk don't tend to need that sort of thing. Most will here be happy with a standard of rear seat legroom that turns out to be very little different from what it was with the previous generation model. At least that means a couple of tall adults can be carried in reasonable comfort. Certainly better than what you'll get in a rival Mercedes GLC, thanks to 100mm of extra wheelbase length. Less positively, replicating the previous design back here also means a bench that can neither slide nor recline, and a pronounced central transmission tunnel that'll make it difficult to accommodate a centre-seated occupant above school age. Talking of school age occupants, tall doors and accessible ISOFIX child seat points would make it easy to lean in and install a child seat if that was necessary. This X3 hasn't really capitalised on its extra roof height. Surprisingly, there's fractionally less headroom than you get in BMW's 3 Series Touring, but it's still just about acceptable, and this optional panoramic glass roof doesn't restrict headspace too much. Even if you don't have it, there's quite an airy feel back here thanks to these large rear quarter-light windows. Travel and comfort system front seat back attachments are another option you might like to consider, but at least you don't have to pay extra for rear climate controls, rear side window blinds and twin USB-C ports back here. And as you'd expect, you get an armrest with cup holders, seat back pockets, decently sized door bins and overhead reading lights. Where you do get at least some benefit from the extra body length is back here at the boot. In a conventionally engined model like this one, the standard powered tailgate rises to reveal a 570 litre capacity, 50 litres more than an Audi Q5, but 30 litres less than the base petrol Mercedes GLC. We should point out though that this X3's capacity falls to 460 litres with the PHEV version. For reference, a conventional BMW 3 Series Touring can take 500 litres. There's no adjustable height boot floor, but it's quite a usable space with recesses both sides and a little storage net on the right. There are lights both sides and one on the inner side of the tailgate to facilitate nighttime loading. There's a useful underfloor space with a partition net, but no sign of the kind of spare wheel any SUV ought to have. There are bag hooks on both sides, one of them alongside a 12-volt socket on a right-hand panel, which looks as if it might incorporate a seat retraction catch. It doesn't though. To push the 40-20-40 split rear bench forward, you have to stretch to the seat shoulder catches. That does seem a bit mean on an SUV of this price. With everything flat, up to 1,700 litres of space can be opened up, or up to 1,600 litres with the PHEV. Just 2 generations ago, the X3 was a £35,000 car, but those days are of course long gone. As we filmed in spring 2025, prices for this 4th generation G45 design were starting from just over £50,000 for the 20 X-Drive petrol model. You need about £1,500 more if you want the 20D X-Drive diesel. The petrol plug-in hybrid 30E X-Drive variant is priced from just over £57,000. All these are available in 2 levels of trim, base X-Line, or for £1,800 more, the M Sport trim level we have here. At the top of the range is the petrol M50 variant, which at the time of this test cost from just under £70,000. The previous F25 and G01 generation X3s sold alongside mechanically identical SUV coupe X4 models, but the X4 won't be continued alongside this G45 era model. There is still an identically engined BMW alternative to this car though, in the shape of the brand's 3 Series Touring. That is almost as practical as an X3, and it will save you around £7,000. As usual, the X3's closest competition comes from its two premium brand German rivals, the Audi Q5 and the Mercedes GLC. The Audi is very closely matched to price on this BMW in its conventional petrol and diesel versions, and we expect it also will be in PHEV form. That wasn't yet on sale at the time of this test though. There's no direct Mercedes GLC equivalent to the base petrol X3 20 xDrive we're trying here, but in diesel and PHEV forms, the GLC costs around £3,000 more than an equivalent X3. As for other alternatives, well, we're not going to cover all the mainstream models that you could choose in top spec form at this BMW's base price point, but there are lots of segment choices that you could make for this kind of spend amongst aspiring premium brand mid-sized SUV contenders. Some like the Lexus NX, the Alfa Romeo Stelvio, the Genesis GV70, the DS7, the Mazda CX-60 or the Honda CR-V could save you around £5,000 or more on BMW prices. Others like the Volvo XC60 will cost about the same as an X3, and still others like the Range Rover Velar or the combustion Porsche Macan will cost you a little more, or in the case of the Maserati Grecale, a lot more. But let's assume it's an X3 you really want. Has BMW ramped up standard kit as well as standard pricing? Let's take a look. Standard features across the range include acoustic glazing, comfort access keyless entry, automatic tailgate operation, an electric folding mechanism for the exterior mirrors, roof rails, cruise control, LED headlights, and the brand's useful My Modes drive settings. There's also BMW's parking assistant package with all-round sensors, a rear camera, and the ability to steer you into parking bays. It also includes BMW's clever reversing assistant system, which can automatically drive you out of spaces the way you drove into them. Inside, all X3s get this G45 era model's striking crystalline glass look, dynamically backlit BMW interaction bar on the fascia, plus front sport seats with heating, power adjustment and memory settings. There's also ambient lighting, a wireless phone charging mat, and 3-zone automatic air conditioning too. Media connectivity is taken care of by the BMW Live Cockpit Plus twin screen cabin setup. That's complete with a 12.3-inch instrument display and a 14.9-inch central infotainment control display. This operating system 9 package includes 4G LTE connectivity, Bluetooth Wi-Fi interface, the cloud-based BMW Maps navigation system, and wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You're probably going to want to pay the extra to upgrade from base X-Line trim to the M Sport package we have here. That outlay replaces the X-Line variant's 18-inch Y-spoke wheels with larger 19-inch M Y-spoke bi-colour rims, and the X-Line model's dark graphite interior trim and Iconeer vivid grey bi-colour upholstery. That's replaced by more interesting looking M fine brushed aluminium interior trim and M Alcantara Veganza black combination upholstery with an anthracite headliner. As usual with BMW M Sport models, there's M high gloss shadowline exterior trim that makes the appropriate office car park statement, and also inside a thick M Sport leather steering wheel to engender the brand's ultimate driving machine vibe. As you'd expect, the top M50 version has its own bespoke spec package that includes more exterior shadowline trimming, a 20-inch M double-spoke bi-colour wheels, a quad exhaust system, and the iconic glow exterior package. Now this lights up the front grille frame. You also get adaptive LED headlights, M Sport brakes, M Sport suspension, variable sport steering, and M Sport seat belts. Whichever X3 model you choose, your dealer is going to want you to consider one of the main optional packs that BMW wants to sell you with this car. The Comfort Pack has adaptive LED headlights, a Harman Kardon surround sound audio upgrade, front seat lumbar support, and also the brand's travel and comfort system front seat back attachments. The Comfort Plus package that adds some sun blinds for the rear side windows, active seat ventilation in the front, and seat heating in the rear. There's also an optional technology pack which adds a head-up display and an interior camera too, which records theft intrusion and can also be used to send journeying pictures to your friends as you drive. This technology pack also includes some extra Driving Assistant Plus drive assist features. These include active cruise control and the steering and lane control assistant. Specifying the technology pack gives you the further chance to add some of BMW's choicest extra cost tech features. These include a Parking Assistant Professional. This is basically a clever surround view camera system which you can also view remotely on your phone if you're away from your X3 but you're a bit worried about its parked up security, for example. The setup includes a drive recorder which in the event of an accident would provide drive footage of how it happened. Customers opting for the technology pack can also upgrade to a Driving Assistant Professional pack. Now, this has further camera features like the steering and lane control assistant, active cruise control with stop and go, front crossing traffic warning, an evasion assistant, crossroads warning, wrong way warning, traffic light recognition, and an emergency stop assistant. Now, this brings the car to a controlled stop if the driver has a medical emergency. Of course, you may not want technology-based options, and if so, there are plenty of other ways to bolster BMW's bank balance. With this M Sport trim, you can make your X3 look like the top M50 model if you add the M Sport Pro pack. That adds extra Shadowline exterior trimming, M seat belts, M Sport brakes, and the iconic glow illuminated grille. The latter two features can also be added as individual options. Here we've also got 5 other standalone options: a panoramic glass sunroof, adaptive suspension, sun protection glass, a luxury instrument panel, and a heated steering wheel. You can also add adaptive LED headlights and of course a tow bar too. For the central screen, there's an optional BMW Digital Premium package, which allows in-car use of specific subscription-based apps, including music and video streaming, and in-car gaming with the brand's Air Console game platform. On to safety. As well as all the usual airbags, standard active guard camera features include the driving assistant package with front collision warning, lane departure warning 2, exit warning, and traffic sign recognition as well, which enables a speed limit warning system which is refreshingly easy to disable when you don't want it. Most of the more sophisticated camera safety features though cost extra, a few of them in the Driving Assistant Plus pack, but most of them in the Driving Assistant Professional pack. BMW isn't developing any more combustion engines, but it is doing its best to improve efficiency on the fossil fuel units it does already have. The 4-cylinder 48-volt mild hybrid petrol power plant used by this 20 xDrive model is from the latest generation of BMW Group modular engines, and it delivers up to 40.9 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and up to 156 grams per kilometre of CO2 emissions. As usual with mild hybrid tech, there's a tiny battery that stores energy from regenerative braking, and then that's used to aid acceleration and to run the engine stop-start system. The 20D xDrive, the diesel, manages up to 48.7 miles per gallon and up to 153 grams per kilometre. The 6-cylinder X3, the top petrol M50 xDrive, is rated at up to 36.7 miles per gallon and 175 grams per kilometre. At the other end of the spectrum for efficiency is of course the 30E PHEV xDrive model, the official WLTP combined cycle fuel figure for that plug-in hybrid variant, up to 282.5 on the combined cycle, up from 128.4 with the previous generation one. Needs to be taken with a pinch of salt, but the important thing is that the government believes the quoted CO2 return up to 22 grams per kilometre, up from from 49 grams per kilometre before. This vast improvement is thanks to the much more usable EV driving range figure of up to 56 miles. That's 20 miles more than the previous generation model, and that's been made possible by the drive battery's jump in size from 13 kilowatt hours to 19.7 kilowatt hours. That is still 27 miles short of a rival Mercedes GLC 300e though. Unusually, BMW has also given us an MPG figure for the X3 plug-in hybrid model when the batteries are depleted, and that's 39.2 miles per gallon. AC charging for the PHEV X3 can be done at up to 11 kilowatts if you have a three-phase supply, and the AC charging time, 20 to 80%, is 2 hours 15 minutes. You'd need to do an awful lot of charging to offset the PHEV model's £7,500 asking price premium over the diesel though. You will need the PHEV version though to slash your benefit-in-kind taxation in an X3. The 30e xDrive plug-in hybrid variant sits in the 8% BIK bracket, and that means a higher rate taxpayer will be looking at deductions of about £1,800. That's around half as much as they'd have to stump up with this base petrol model. What else? Well, insurance groupings start at 32 for this 20 xDrive version, rising to 33 for the 20D xDrive. It's group 38 for the 30E xDrive PHEV and group 42 for the M50. Now, because every X3 costs over £40,000, the entire range is subject to an extra vehicle excise duty fee for the first 5 years of ownership, and that costs £590 at current rates. Depreciation is expected to be in the 50 to 55% bracket after the usual 3-year, 36,000 mile ownership period. That's a little better than you get from this model's Mercedes and Audi rivals actually. Onto the warranty package. BMW's warranty only lasts for 3 years, but it does include an emergency breakdown service, and at least I suppose it isn't mileage limited, unlike the comparable package that you would get as standard if you were to buy a rival Audi. You can of course extend that warranty, and you can do that with either monthly or annual payments. There is a 3-year paintwork warranty too, and the usual 12-year anti-corrosion guarantee. BMW has had a lot to do with the rise in popularity of mid-sized premium SUVs, having pioneered this segment back in 2003. Rivals have grabbed their headlines since, but with this 4th generation model, the Bavarians are out to redefine what a car of this kind should be. In many ways, this car does just that. Yes, it is true that it doesn't offer much that's radically different to what we've seen before in this class, but much of what it does do is so complete and so polished that it's hard not to admire the end result. We'd hoped that the redesigned suspension would have added a more cosseting ride to the mildly sporty handling, which has usually characterised this model line. In the event though, we've ended up with a similar confection to that served up before, and that really means that if you want to cruise over potholes and speed humps on the school run, then you might be better off in a rival Audi Q5 or in a Mercedes GLC. But you could probably quite happily live with an X3 over that sort of commute, and on faster, twistier roads beyond the city limits, you would probably enjoy yourself in it significantly more than you would in those two rivals. The more important changes to this G45 era model lie with the divisive looks and the glitzier cabin. Now, we'll leave you to judge the styling, and you might well conclude that the interior now has a luxury demeanour that it lacked before. Well, that is certainly true of the technology that the cabin now offers, but we can't help feeling that a few small backward steps have been taken in terms of ergonomics and also in terms of general build quality. Overall though, the summary here is that customers in this sector who can afford the asking price should find this rejuvenated X3 to be an appealing package. It's a bolder, more energetic, more ambitious car than it was, and for us, that also makes it more of a BMW.